We've had a wonderful afternoon. I want to thank you all for tuning into WRPI Troy. I'm Gary for In the Spirit. We're heard here every Thursday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and we have Laurie Scott with us right now. And let me tell you about something about Laurie and about her book and about her music. She wrote this book called A Spiritual Journey to Now, and it's a book for our times. And Laurie Scott's journey is our journey to better understand ourselves and unlocking the potential to transform our life experience into one of peace and contentment. The reader follows Laurie's diverse life path from growing up in a traditional yet open-minded and active household to her spiritual awakening and unique experiences a world away. Personal stories of her life and spiritual journey both entertain and enlighten the reader while offering practical wisdom to combat the chaos of our often turbulent lives. As an accomplished musician, author, meditation, and yoga practitioner, Laurie shares her gifts with those who need it most in her quest to bring more light to the world. Laurie Scott lived in an ashram in India as a young adult. She then studied North Indian classical music with a master musician from India for almost 25 years in California. She has recorded several albums and plays music for people in environments who rarely have the opportunity to hear live music. Her website is her name, lauriescott.org, lauriescott.org. I'm very happy to say Laurie's on the phone, so let's welcome Laurie to In the Spirit. Hi, Laurie.
Hi, Gary. Thank you so much for having me. I feel very honored to be among your illustrious guests. I've been listening to your show for a couple of months, and you have beautiful music and very interesting topics, and I think you perform a wonderful service by getting the word out about people's books and their music.
Oh, thank you, Laurie. I really appreciate that you've been listening. It means a lot to me. I'd like, I do my best to get this out, this music and this show out, whether it's Gary's music show on Tuesday or on from 11 to 4 In the Spirit. I love providing the service. I'm given in this wonderful opportunity to do that, and I'm taking full advantage of it. I've been doing radio here on WRPI since 1999.
Wow.
And we continue to grow. The station continues to grow. I continue, the program continues to grow. I'm very grateful,
Well, you're doing a very great service for your guests and also the listeners.
Well, thank you, Laurie. Laurie, this book, A Spiritual Journey to Now, is like a memoir, isn't it?
It is. It contains stories of my life and my spiritual journey, which began at the age of 14. And some of it's, entertaining and humorous stories. Other parts of it are very personal and raw. And interjected in my book are things that I have learned over the years that can greatly improve the quality of my life and hopefully the lives of others too.
Well, I love that you share very truth from the truth about yourself, and you have a whole chapter on being a vegetarian and the things that are important to your life. You're sharing with people, and that's the way to do it. I think I'm going to be writing a book at some point, and I think your book is a bit of an inspiration to me because the style. I like the style. It's very gentle. It doesn't overwhelm. But have you written? Is this your first book?
This is my very first book, and to be honest, I wasn't really planning to even write a book. But my best friend, who's really one of the most outstanding human beings I know, he really encouraged me to write a memoir. He recognized that I had a very unique and interesting life that should be shared. So I sat down to write it, and to my, really my amazement, the words really just flowed out of me very easily and spontaneously. I really regard this book as a gift of grace. I wrote the whole book within just a few weeks. I did take another year to really fine-tune the sentences. But to me, this book is like a letter from my higher self to my smaller self. And to be honest, even when I open the book and look at passages, I'm just amazed at what is on the pages, because there are things that I am still working on and trying to imbibe and learn in my everyday life.
Well, don't you feel that by writing this, you were really it's a healing process? Yeah. Then writing this is a healing process for you.
Absolutely, and it was very cathartic. It helped me understand why I went through certain experiences and how everyone goes through pain and suffering, but we don't always understand it. But it certainly gave me an understanding of why I had to go through certain experiences, and so it was definitely a soul lesson for me writing this book.
From your own experience, and how do you view life struggles, and what everybody has their own struggles they go through, it's unique to them, yet there's a commonality within all the struggles, that we are actually not alone, that whatever we are going through, pain and suffering, whatever that is, it's not forever. It's for that it has something to teach us. Do you believe?
Oh, absolutely, and I think that gives us great hope and inspiration, because sometimes we go through periods of suffering that we just don't think will ever end, but it absolutely will end, and our life does become much better. We just have to stick with it, and life is always in a state of evolution and change, and eventually things shift, and you can have a brand new life just over the horizon. I've known people that have had terrible lives. You never thought that their lives would ever change, but they completely came out of it and had brand new lives going forward. So it always gives us hope that if we are going through some type of suffering, that it's not going to last. You're going to get through it, and much better things await you in the future.
Yeah, and it could be leading to something, some kind of growth or breakthrough.
Absolutely.
So nobody really likes pain or suffering. Most of us don't. But sometimes we bring it on to ourselves because maybe that's what we think we deserve.
I think so. I think a lot of us have a dialogue of kind of negativity and self-hatred, and we need to learn to love ourselves much more and treat ourselves with tenderness and love. So often we are very kind to others, but we are not kind to ourselves. We need to be more gentle and love ourselves.
I think that's absolutely very important. When you first tell us a little bit about, it's in your book, but if you would please, Laurie Scott's our guest, and her book is A Spiritual Journey to Now. Tell us about growing up a little bit, would you?
Sure. I grew up in a very interesting household, and actually I was very fortunate. Of course, I took it for granted as a child, but my mother was a concert pianist, and she taught piano for many, many years, and she was very fun and vivacious and flamboyant. She loved to have people from all over the world as guests in her home. My father was a very quiet man from Maine, and he was a fisheries biologist who took care of the salmon on the Columbia and the Snake Rivers. So we lived on a lake, and I wouldn't describe my family as wealthy, but they're very made sure that we had fun in life. We had like a speedboat and a sailboat and a canoe, and we were always going places and doing things on the weekends. We would snow ski in the winter, and we would water ski in the summer. Every weekend we were out doing things. Had a very active, a fortunate childhood.
Brothers and sisters?
I have two sisters and a brother I didn't grow up with, a half brother.
Mm-hmm. So when you say we, you're talking about you and your sisters and your mother and father?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And how old are you? I mean, what is your age? Were you the oldest, or where did you fall in the line?
Well, I have a fraternal twin sister. It was really like growing up with a regular sister. And then I had my older sister was my half-sister, who's 9 years older. My mother and father were both married once before. My dad was married briefly and had a son, and then my mother was married for about 12 years, and she had a daughter, which I grew up with her. So that was our household. Yeah.
So would you consider happy growing up?
No. That's the funny thing. I had everything materially a child could want, but I really was pretty miserable, particularly in school. I just felt like it was a place of tremendous boredom, no cultural richness. A lot of the children were quite mean, and I didn't fit in at all. Home life was certainly a lot more of a much more relaxed and easygoing, thank goodness. But I did lack spirituality as a child, which I think spirituality is just one of the keystones of having a really happy life. But at the age of 14, that's when things began to change for me. I came across this incredible book, which is really like a Bible for millions of spiritual seekers around the world, which is Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read that book from the front cover to the back cover, all in one sitting, and it was like moving from a dark room into a room filled with light. And from then on, my life was completely changed. I knew that life had meaning, that there were such things as God-realized beings, and that we can actually achieve a state of enlightenment in this life if we put forth our effort. So at that point, as a teenager, I began to do yoga, and I spent time in various spiritual environments with different teachers. And I met my first guru at the age of 18, and I joined him when I was 19, and I was with him for 7 years, and I spent several of those years living in India. So I found my past calling, and it's really changed my life completely.
Yeah, I imagine it did. What drew? What was it? The dryness of living in a culture that did not speak to your inner desires and longings for spirituality?
Yes, I absolutely. I think that you may have every material advantage imaginable, but if you don't have the richness and the sweetness of God, life can be very insipid and without meaning.
Yeah, and so what? So you had a calling, like in your soul, didn't you? Like a spiritual calling?
Absolutely, and that's where I say that when you go through suffering, actually, it can turn out to be the greatest blessing of your life, because I was very unhappy as a child, but it was because of that suffering that actually that transformed me, that kind of broke the shell open to really wanting wanting something more in life. I knew that material things weren't going to make me happy, and so it's just when I began my steps on the spiritual path, and I realized that was the true path to happiness, and the true path to bliss.
It's a good thing that that happened. About what age did you start? This occurred.
This was at age 14.
Wow, very early.
Yeah.
Now,
I was an early spiritual seeker.
do you feel that did it matter to you being a woman? For instance, don't you like men seem to have more support?
Yeah. Well, I think that's general in life in general. Yes, I think women are often kind of ignored and not really brought out to the forefront.
So how was it for you?
For me, well, I definitely think I think it suited my nature. I'm kind of a quiet person anyway.
Yeah.
And to be in the background, so it was okay. But I think now at my late age, I'm finally coming out. I'm finally blossoming into who I really am and what I have to offer others. I think that I actually do have a lot to offer, and I want to spend the last quarter of my life serving others and trying to bring a little light into the world through my music and now my writing.
It's beautiful, and thank you for your CDs. You released 4 CDs in 2014, didn't you?
Yeah, that was after I had been working in offices all my life, and I had been in an office for 11 years. That was particularly challenging for me. So I finally decided to take the leap and quit my job and devote myself to music. And so that first year, I did do 4 CDs in a row. But I didn't have any other occupations, so I was able to do it. But it did involve many, many long hours, and it was the writing, the composing of the music was a lot like my writing. It just happened very easily and spontaneously, but the mechanics of recording was not easy. So,
no.
Yeah.
You what are the we did a series here on. I did a series on one of my shows with Gary's Music Show on Tuesday, which we did a 6-part series on classical Indian music. And I learned a bit, we had the musicians right in the studio. And so I'm getting familiar. I got familiar with a little bit of the terms that used in classical Indian music, like alap, and
Oh, great.
yeah, and the beats and the timing and the shruti, the shruti.
Uh-huh.
So I learned about, even though I don't play it myself, Avina Chandra, who was sitting in the studio, was telling us about these shrutis between notes and everything. It was fascinating, and I think it's really wonderful that that people learn about classical Indian music. That it's really beautiful. I mean, I first heard about it many years ago through Ravi Shankar.
Oh, right. Well, I have to tell you that the Indian classical musician I studied with, I don't think I mentioned it yet, was the very great Sarod master Ali Akbar Khan. He's regarded as one of the greatest classical musicians of our time, and his father was Aladdin Khan, who was also considered one of the greatest musicians who played over 100 instruments. And Aladdin Khan was actually the teacher of Ravi Shankar and his son Ali Akbar Khan. And Ali Akbar Khan was in the movie, The Concert of Bangladesh, that
Yes.
George Harrison put out, and he and Ravi Shankar performed together on that album. And so I was very blessed to study with him. He was a genius musician. Music just flowed out of him just like a waterfall. It was just an incredible blessing to be in his classes. He taught the music orally, and we'd have to play it on our instruments on the spot. And he also had a very beautiful and uplifting presence that was really, he just drew people to him like, I don't want to use the word flies, but he had a lot of students, and he taught for over 40 years up to the very last days of his life when he struggled to walk. He was so passionate about teaching. And then another great teacher at the Ali Akbar College of Music is this great tabla master and percussionist named Pandit Swapan Chaudhary, and I studied with him for a few years. I studied tabla, and he still continues to teach there. And Ali Akbar Khan's son, Alam Khan, who's another wonderful, wonderful musician, is teaching at the college. So the college, even though Ali Akbar Khan is no longer alive, is still a very vibrant and alive place.
Yeah, well, thank you. I wanted to play a selection from Indigo Sarod.
Okay, great.
Is there something in particular you'd like me to hear? I'd like to play?
Well, either any of them are fine. Maybe I love the Donny. The Donny.
Yeah. We're going to begin with that, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Laurie Scott playing uplifting music of North India, which are ragas on the sarod, featuring melodic improvisations or alaps, which we're going to hear in alap, and original compositions written by Laurie. So, and her website is lauriescott.org. LAURIESCOTT.org. And we're going to do a short station break, and we'll go right into the music. Thank you, Laurie.
You're very welcome.
Hey, this is Laura G with Celestial Vibrations here at WRPI Troy 91.5 FM. Stay tuned and stay peaceful.
Laurie Scott is our guest on this hour of In the Spirit. I'm very happy that Laurie is with us. We've been playing a selection from Indigo Sarode, and very beautiful music that she plays. Donnie Alop, Dhani, and her website, lauriescott.org, LAURISCOTT. Her book is A Spiritual Journey to Now. And hi, Laurie. Thank you.
Hi.
It was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you've got and I want to let the listeners know you've got several CDs, and we played one of them. And what is the difference? How do you explain the difference between a I used to get it mixed up, but maybe some people still do, a sarod and a sitar?
Oh, okay. A sarod it looks kind of like a large lute, and is held like a guitar. So that the sitar is an instrument that has a gourd on the bottom and then a very long neck, and it has frets. So the sitar is considered the feminine instrument because it has a more kind of a softer, sweeter sound, whereas I don't mean sweeter, but a soft, sweet sound, and the sarod has a very rich, deep sound, so the sarod is considered the male instrument.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. And you studied 25 years with Ali Akbar Khan?
Actually, 24, but
24?
I say almost 25. That sounds better.
It's pretty
yeah.
close.
And he formed a college called the Ali Akbar College of Music in San Rafael, California. And I think it was 1967, which was the height of just kind of the age of Haight Ashbury, etc. And there's such a great interest in Indian classical music that he ended up staying in America and teaching for over 40 years. He also has schools in Calcutta and a school in Calcutta and a school in Switzerland.
Thank you. You've had experience with gurus, and if you would like to share with our listeners, maybe some highlights.
Well, I think if you're, there's certainly some really wonderful teachers out there that have great knowledge to share, but then you'll meet a special being that is like a self-realized master who is really in a state of ecstatic bliss, and being in their presence, you'll automatically go into a state of meditation, and you'll have special spiritual experiences, and you'll find that your spiritual development really will be much faster in the presence of one of these very great beings, if you're fortunate to meet them.
And so you've had that good fortune, right?
I have. As a teenager, I met some wonderful teachers of yoga, and I attended retreats, silent retreats, and I lived in a ashram in Quebec where I learned yoga. I was there during my summer of my 16th year, and actually I was their very youngest staff member they've ever had. They don't usually allow people my age, but for some reason they made an exception in my case, and I spent the summer working, washing dishes, and working in the reception area, but also learning yoga. And by the end of the summer, I could do the scorpion pose, which is one of the most difficult poses you can do. The yoga teacher there just, he says, do it, and I didn't want to do it. He says, you can do it, and I found myself able to do it. You're kind of balanced on your front forearms, and then your whole body is up in the air over your head. kind of hard to describe it, but you look like a scorpion.
I know that pose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done some
I
yoga.
can't do that now, but
No.
I could then.
I know it. There was a lot of, I was able to stand on my head in the 70s. I learned yoga, and I was able to stand on my head in the middle of a room. And I used to, wedding receptions and all kinds of places. I'd be doing that, just for the fun of it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Well, nowadays I've gotten away from the asanas, but but haven't gotten away from living a spiritual life or dedicating myself to the higher ideals that I hold, within me. And I've been very fortunate as well. I feel that life is my greatest teacher, and that the people that are in my life are here not by happenstance, but because it's brought to me. It's because I'm asking for it. I'm asking for the people in my life, whether I know it or not. They come, and life experiences too. So I try to keep a receptive attitude about everything that occurs, and see what part that I need to actively play in it. So it's sort of like just paying attention and staying present.
Absolutely. I absolutely believe that everything that happens in our life happens for a reason. Every person we meet, every experience we have, and you do really want to be open and fully present for what you're going through. I think a lot of times people are so busy thinking about what happened in the past or what happened in the future, they don't actually live in the present moment. And their whole life can pass by that way. Just their mind's just somewhere else. Their whole life could be over, and they had never really lived it. So I really applaud you for being receptive to what's happening in your life, and being open to everything.
I think everything is new for me. I feel like I'm always being born again. I'm open to that when I wake up in the morning. This is a new day. What do I do with it? Wow, I'm given a gift of another day. This is great. So, it feels like that. And I'm wondering if if there's a portion of the book that you'd like to read.
Okay, let's see here.
Just so people can get a feeling of, your writing.
Okay, I'm pulling it up as we speak and trying not to give you any dead air here. Hold on a second.
I hear you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to share what you shared on Facebook because I thought it was so beautiful.
Really was.
To a large extent, our very happiness or unhappiness is a choice. Every day we wake up and we can decide to be happy or we can decide to be unhappy, regardless of what our outer circumstances may be. It's the nature of the ocean to have waves. Once we know how to swim in the ocean, it can be a very joyful experience. In the same way the ocean has ever-changing waves, so too the world is constantly changing. When we learn how to navigate the ever-changing world and its ups and downs, we can actually enjoy ourselves. Like an experienced swimmer enjoying the ocean waves, we can easily and joyfully swim through the changing waves of our lives.
Beautiful. And I guess that's a thumbs up for my selection from your book to post on Facebook then. Huh?
Yeah, that was perfect.
Here it was. I like to sit on my in the northeast. We're having some warmer weather. And I live in upstate New York, and I have a porch, or I call it my deck. I have it's open to outdoors. It's it's connected to the house. It's like an outdoor room, and I go out there and I do my reading out there, and I love early morning reading because I get the early morning sun shining, and so I'd be reading a book, and I it could be your book or any book, and that I'm usually it's preparing for the radio show. I'm reading the books for, and I came across that, and I got up. And I said, "Well, that," and it's a way to help to advertise you being on the show, as well. And but really, it's the words of wisdom that strike me, and it says, "I don't want to keep this to myself. I want people to hear it, because
Right.
it's so true." So I was really inspired. And every chapter has a lessons learned in it.
Right.
So so you can go and read the chapter, and then and then what the lessons that you learned in that chapter you share.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm just going through your book, and I come to that same page. It's on 138. People that have that book. You tell us a little bit. We have a few minutes, and I want to make sure we get a little bit more music in about Amma. I know the hugging saint they call her, and
Oh,
I know other friends, many friends, that consider Amma the guru. She has a powerful effect on people's lives.
right. Amma is my second guru. I met her, was very blessed to meet her in 1990.
Hmm.
And I knew right away that she was a living saint. I could just feel it. I experienced it. Everything about her is truly just like a divine being. Her actions, her words, her teachings, and um, she she's everything that you would think a saint would be. She adores animals. She cares about the poor. She does tremendous service work of taking care of people that are down and out, and she also consoles and heals all the people that come to her, and she actually physically hugs people individually for hours. For instance, she'll give a morning program that will go from 10 o'clock until 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and she'll just be hugging people during that whole time. And then again at night, she will do it. This is when she comes to the West. She will do it from 9:30 till 2 or 3 in the morning. And you can just see people's burdens being lifted. She's a true spiritual healer, and her purpose in life is just to serve others. And she's never a selfish person ever. The least selfish person one will ever meet. And I've been going to see her now, for 27 years, and I make sure that I go. She comes to the Bay Area twice a year, and I don't always feel like going because they're quite large crowds, but I always make myself get out the door and go there, and I'm always so thankful that I do. It's a very transforming experience to spend time in her presence.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing, Laurie. Laurie Scott is our guest. Her book is A Spiritual Journey to Now. Her website is lauriescott.org, LaurieScott.org. And she has 4 wonderful CDs, which you will be hearing from time to time on Gary's Music Show and In the Spirit. And in the future, we can count on that. And we're gonna close our hour with you with another selection from India, Indigo Sarod. The title of your CDs are Sarod Spirit, River of Ragas, and Gentle Ragas. But we're gonna stick right with to close our show this hour with another selection from the CD. So I want to thank you, Laurie, for being with us. It's a real treat, and I feel like we've become friends. So I feel we just continue our friendship, whether we do radio or not, and hopefully you'll come back on the air.
Oh, I love that. I feel like I've become friends with you too, and I'm actually. This has been a really actually wonderful hour for me. I'm actually quite a quiet introvert. So I'm surprised that I actually found the words to really, express myself today, and I think you helped make that happen. So thank you very much, and it's been a real pleasure to meet you and talk to you.
I feel the same way, Laurie. Thank you so much, and we're going to start the music now, and if I could speak with you off air, I'd like to do that, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're listening to WRPI Troy. Well, I noticed that you have friends that are listening in and commenting, and that's really nice.